Welcome, welcome, Youest listeners. This is Julie, and I got to tell you, I have got what I would call a shit-eating grin. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see it. If you're listening, you might feel it. For those of my lovely empath, highly sensitive soul seekers, I am so excited. I'm interviewing a beautiful, badass, bold woman that is really helped to change my life. I'll share just a moment of that, but I want to introduce you for those who do know Kate Northrup. For those who don't, you're going to be so glad that you listened. Remember that I'm taking the notes for you, so you don't need to. There will be a whole slew of show notes, and just, I encourage you to give yourself a little space and time to listen, enjoy, and this is a gift for me, and I'm really excited. So welcome. We have Kate Northrup today on the show. Yay. Let me tell you a little bit about her before you get to meet her. As an entrepreneur, best-selling author, speaker, and mother, Kate Northrup has built a multimedia educational platform that reaches hundreds of thousands globally. She is committed to supporting ambitious women to light up the world. Love this, without burning themselves out. Yes, we need that. Kate teaches data and soul-driven time and energy management practices that result in saving time, making more money, and experiencing less stress through her Do Less planner, her programs, and her books, Do Less and Money, A Love Story. Do Less was named one of the 100 best time management books of all time. Kate's work has been featured by the Today Show, the New York Times, Harvard Business Review, Yahoo, Finance, Forbes, Women's Health, Glamour, and many more. Kate and her husband and their daughters reside now in the Florida area. I believe it used to be Maine. I'm just changing that because we just spoke.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm like, that's not true. She's not in Maine, but she might be sometimes, but you're in, I know, Florida now. Yes. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you. I do have, my cheeks do already hurt. That's my sign. I'm like, oh God, I love her because my cheeks literally here. Maybe it's good for aging. I don't know. It's like,
it may be. We do want to keep the volume as much as possible in the facial area. Yes, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Just find someone you love to talk to and your cheeks too will hurt. That's all you got to do. That's it. Well, I have to say, I'm so grateful. And I'm sure you hear this, Kate, like, wow, you changed my life and you touched me. And I just, I love to ask this question about really that becoming and stepping into what I call your Youest that higher calling. I love what you're talking about, shining your light without burning out. I just have to say, because for those who don't know this, your book, especially The Money Love Story, like, thank you for stepping into your light and your Youest, because it literally did change my life. And I don't mean that lightly. I think I told you before we started, Julia Cameron, love her. The Artist's Way was the first, and this was the second. And it changed my life in very profound ways around prosperity, abundance, worthiness, and frankly, just seeing a whole shift in all of it, my money, my finances, my tracking, my love of numbers. I'm even into numerology now. I even like numbers. I just got excited at the post office. It was $49.94. And he's like, why are you so happy? It was $15, it was like $12 a package in this. I'm like, because it's a great number. And I'm like, something has changed. This is not me. So thank you.
Awesome.
And just for who you are, what you're doing. And maybe, I know it's always like that question is like, tell us about you. Like, that's a crazy ass long story question, but maybe for those who don't know you as well, like just even the high level of like, kind of how you've evolved to being someone that's such a stand for women, for moms. I love that, for ambitious women that want to make a difference.
Yeah, so I think it started because I was raised by an incredibly ambitious woman who to this day really works a lot. And I love her. She's amazing and she's unstoppable. And as a child, I was really aware that I missed my mom, and I really knew I wanted to have kids. And I knew that I wanted to figure out a way that I could do both, that I could have an amazing, thriving career, but also feel super present and connected with my kids. Not to say that my mom did it wrong, but we're always changing the family lineage, right? Always upgrading the lineage. And so I started a business when I was 18. because I thought that owning my own business was probably the surest way to figure out how to own my time. Ultimately, it was always about owning my time. And through a series of events that I did not orchestrate, I ended up writing Money, a Love Story. Sort of by accident, I got asked as part of this thing with Hay House to write a book, and I was like, okay, here's my different ideas. And Reed Tracy, the president of Hay House, was like, great, do the money one. And I was like, okay. So that was completely by accident. But it turns out the book really helped people. So I've always been fascinated by money. I started reading personal finance books when I was a teenager. Just really interested in the psychology of money and how really it's just not real. Right. Yeah. Money is just not real. We made it up as humans. And so then what, right? How can we live? And a lot of it, after that, I've learned so much more about toxic capitalism and oppressive systems and structures, and like, how can we use our relationship with money to heal those structures within ourselves and also outside of ourselves. And then I got pregnant with my first daughter, and I was really stopped in my tracks as someone who always identified as very productive and capable. And I was just so tired for the first time.
Yeah.
I was just the tiredest I've ever been. There was nothing I could do and to stop being tired. And previous to that time, as an athlete, as a dancer, I could always just kind of push harder or think harder to overcome any obstacle. But this was the first time there was nothing I could do. I just had to lay down. And so I started really asking those deeper questions of, who am I if I'm not capable? Who am I if I'm not productive? Who am I if I'm not contributing at the level I've always been used to or always thought was important? And then I had my daughter, and it was a rocky birth experience. It was a very rocky first year of motherhood. I had, it was a home birth turned C-section. Then she was sick in the hospital for a week on IV antibiotics, which is not what you want to be giving a newborn. Mastitis and postpartum insomnia and, all the blah, 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 blah. And then she was really sick that first year of her life with severe eczema. And I was completely brought to my knees by parenthood. And I just never felt so out of control in my life. And I just sort of had assumed that because I always wanted to have kids, that I would just naturally be good at it. That was not the case.
It's not like a class where you just, I understand.
I just was like, I'm not that good at this and I don't know what I'm doing. And so what was crazy that year is my husband and I had 10 hours of childcare a week. And at that time, company together. And so I don't, this is another topic for another time. I don't know why I didn't think that I should have more help than that, but 10 hours I thought was going to be enough somehow. And at the end of that year, we sat down with our accountant and looked, and I realized that having spent less than half the amount of time I had ever spent working in my adult life in a year, we had made more money than we'd ever made before.
Wow.
And so I just thought, well, that's not what I was taught. What I was taught is, if you want to have better results, you have to work harder for it and more hours.
Yeah.
But I had now this lived experience where that wasn't the case. So even though I would never go back to relive that first year of parenthood for anything, I did think, oh, well, maybe there's some things in here that we did that I could repeat on purpose to keep getting these same results of making more money with less stress. Well, there was a lot of stress, but it was unrelated to making the money. So making more money in less time. And so that's where I started my membership Origin, and I wrote Do Less and created the Do Less planner based on my exploration and research and practice of what started out in that first year of parenthood.
Oh my gosh, there's so much in what you just said. First of all, I have to say, as a mother, having gone through this, and I just am picking up, like, I think a lot of what you're talking about, being productive, high achieving, like, I can work really hard. I have a tutor, I have this, I'm going to make sure, like, I make this team, I get this grade, I get into this college. And my body, my adrenals were like freaking out listening to you, because I got to tell you, it was, it was one of the hardest times of my entire life. And I really was like, this is permanent. And I don't know if I can do this. Like, I really, I wasn't at the point, I was definitely in the postpartum, some sort of, I think both depression, but also exhaustion. And I saw why sleep deprivation is used as, it's used as a punishment, it's just, and so I think it's so interesting, that question. I wrote this down, like, who am I if I'm not productive? I, I still struggle. And I think those listening, I know, still struggle with that the days, not all the time now. And I love what you teach about this, but there is still that little voice, and, Sunday I take off and it's like, what did you really do today? And so I think it's interesting that your best year financially was the year you put the least amount of effort and time into it. And so, yeah, say more what you then learned, and really talking about, I know there's so much here between Virgin, between your book, the do less, and your system, and then also some of what you're working on now with being able to say no.
Yeah. So, um, what I realized in retrospect was that, similar to if you've ever heard anybody talk about, what the data shows is that if we eat off a smaller plate, we just automatically lose weight because we just automatically eat less. And by the way, I'm not an advocate of like trying to lose weight. This is not a statement of my values. That's just
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, no, good point. Because my brain's like, oh, really? And then I'm like, it doesn't matter.
And there's like, then we are getting into the whole fat phobia conversation, is whatever. That's not what this is about.
No.
But what I realized is my schedule was condensed so profoundly, because before I had kids, I just was like, I'll work now, I'll work a little bit then, I'll like go to the movies, and then I'll work more, I'll work all weekend, I'll like work into the night. There were no boundaries.
Right.
And especially because I ran a company with my husband, there was like zero boundaries.
Right.
And I had a baby. And I could not, and I was also, there's so many nursing issues. It took a lot of time to feed my baby. And I was committed. And so, which, by the way, if you choose to, again, just PSA, if you choose a different way, that's also great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I just know people like have a lot of feelings about what people say. So I had so much less time to devote to my business. Yeah. And so I just got the shit done that needed to get done. And then I got out of there because I had a crying baby, or I was exhausted, or whatever. I spent zero time on wondering or like second guessing. I just like got in, got out. And the focus was insane. So that was one thing. The other thing that became really clear is that my husband and I really doubled down on our 20% that got 80% of the results. And so this is one of my absolute core tenets, Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, is really looking and saying, okay, we live in a culture obsessed with being busy.
Yep.
And what ends up happening is we just do a lot of things to fill the day because we feel better about ourselves, because we've been brainwashed to believe that if we do more things, we are more valuable. And so we end up doing all these things. I realized in retrospect, wow, I was spending a lot of time doing things that did not get results. Now, if the result that we're talking about is making money, that's kind of the context of this conversation. Obviously, there's a lot of other results like joy and, connection, and those things matter as well. But for the purposes of today, we're talking about revenue. And so I realized I need to, even though like then my daughter was in daycare and I had a little more freedom, and then I stopped nursing, all those things, I really wanted to stick with scheduling in my time. So I scheduled in that 20% that got 80% of the results, and getting rid of so much of the other stuff that's just really a distraction. And the reason that we do that, right, because it seems so logical. Well, if it's not getting you results, just stop doing it. But then we keep overcomplicating things, and we keep doing things that aren't getting us results. And we get so lost in all the tasks that we don't even come up for air to determine, do I need to do this or do I not? And really it's because of the programming that has us believe that the more we do, the better we are. And that's just like, that's at the core of it. In learning that our value is not determined by our productivity.
I like I literally had to take a moment to just breathe that in because it's like it is literally, you know, fish don't even know the water they're swimming in. It is the air we breathe in. Now
Yeah,
it's what I love what you're doing. It's starting to change, but yeah, it's in everything. I mean, frankly, I think my kids are a little bit older than where you are. They're seventh and eighth grade, and it's baked into there. I mean,
Mhm.
part of me, and of course, you know, I'm like the hippie mom that's like, hold on, like really
Totally.
take a step back. Like, wait a minute, what is the point of all this doing?
Well,
Has
my
yeah,
daughter just started kindergarten mid-year because we moved. And
right.
there's this, and I love her school. So no, if anybody is listening from the school, like no shade, but they send this little binder home during the work week. And then there's these like activities and it was stressing me out. And so I went to her teacher and I was like, listen, this is too much. We're not
Yeah,
doing it. I just was like, no,
yeah,
I'm not doing homework with my kindergartner. And she was like, great. But I just like boundaries. We just, if it doesn't feel good, it's no, just,
yeah.
I'm not doing this. And that was so it was so relieving because I will not participate in
Yeah.
that culture. I will not indoctrinate my daughter into that.
Good for you. That actually takes something to do that. That takes something. I give you credit to be like, no to the binder. I know you put a lot of time
No,
and energy. It's pretty, but we're not doing it. Good for you. And frankly, in
no.
kindergarten, I'm like, we didn't have homework. My God.
Hello, what is happening? And
Yeah.
listen, there's a few activities in there that are totally fun that we do, but I'm not doing like all the things they want us to do.
Yeah.
I'm doing the things that work for us and our life.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. I think this topic of boundaries is really, really important. And that, you know, as a recovering codependent, I'm like, I know it's a good thing. I'm starting to, I mean, I use them and for some of us, it's really challenging. And I think for women particularly, I maybe to talk for a minute about boundaries and it sounds like, and I know you're about to start a really cool challenge, the no challenge, which to me is just hearing it. I was like, whatever that is, I need that because it sounds like boundaries, sounds like uncomfortable, but really good for me.
Totally.
Like
Well,
vitamin no. I need a vitamin no. That's what I'm missing.
vitamin no. Well, so here's the
Yeah.
thing. As women, we are raised in a culture that tells us that our worth is dependent on us being pleasing
Yeah.
to others. Because it is very recent, like very recent in recorded history, that women have been valued for more than our ability to keep a home, give birth, and provide pleasure.
Yeah.
Very recent. And so we have to really understand how deeply encoded in our cellular memory it is from, you know, epigenetics and what's passed down from our ancestors to just the collective experience of being a woman on planet Earth at this time, where in many places we just don't have the freedoms that we should. Um, and so we please people to prove that we get to take up space on the planet. We please people to prove that we get to exist. You know, and it's still very common in families for if a family has a son and a daughter to treat them differently. You know, it's like that is really very much happening. And so to me, it's like one of the most liberatory, revolutionary acts to not make our lives. Now, I'm all about being in service to the divine. Like I completely, my life is an offering to God and the goddess and the universe for
Mm,
sure. But I'm not about being of service to everybody in my life.
yeah.
I'll be available for them. I'll help them.
Yep.
But like my life is not about that. My life is about being in service to something greater. And I cannot be in service to something greater if I am of service to everybody who's what's it who wants me to do something. So my life
Mm,
changed really dramatically when I had a baby because suddenly I could only focus on me staying alive and her staying alive.
mm,
And then like the bare minimum that I needed to do to keep our company going. But if anything fell outside that realm, like I just wasn't available for it. And I'm
yeah.
sure, you know, I'm sure and a lot of moms go through that experience of all of a sudden you have a baby and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I cannot do the things I used to do. Like, I'm just not, I have nothing to give. Right. And so that piece around saying no, if you're overwhelmed, if you're overworked, if you feel like you're stretched so thin, we have to just start with saying no, because there's no amount of schedule Tetris that will get you to a point where you can fit it all in. You know, it's like I hired a professional organizer to come help me organize my closet. And we were on the yoga pants drawer, and she was like, she's helping me all, fold them beautifully, whatever. And I was like, okay, great. So they're all in the pants drawer, but I had this little stack over to the side, and I was like, but these pants don't fit in the drawer. And she was like, right. So here's the deal. This is the amount of space you have for yoga pants. So if a pant does not fit in this drawer, you do not own those pants anymore. And I was like, oh, so, because, and so we can think about that with our lives. We do not have unlimited hours in the day.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit in the yoga pants drawer, you have to get rid of it. And so, so the no challenge is, we're going to start that in May, and it'll be 8 days of saying no to one thing a day. So it's a simple practice. It's very elegant. And saying no is a muscle that it's like a little bicep curl of your no muscle. And you just work it every day, and then you become really so much better at it. And I'll even like give some scripts about how to say no, because I know we worry about, oh no, I'm going to hurt their feelings, and they're going to think I don't like them. They're going to think I'm a bitch. They're going to, all those things. I think all those things too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You had me at now. You had me at the yoga pants. I have to be honest. I'm beyond too many. It's not even funny. I was like, oh God, I'm over 40 something. I was like, yeah, I think I need to give some away. And then I'm thinking, yeah, I will be in this challenge. It's interesting with no, I'm curious, because, the more that you expand, the more first of all, want to go back for a minute. I am in love with what you said. I'm definitely going to quote you. I actually feel very similar. I just was like, oh, I love your wording about the really getting clear. Your life is in service. I love this, of the divine. I feel you. I was like, yep, of the God, goddess, the great all that is. And to do that, to be that, you cannot be on call for everybody. You can't, which, like you said, you were feeding your daughter and feeding yourself. Like, I remember with mastitis, I actually was like, did you do the shower? It's like horrible. Like,
it's horrible.
The whole breast goes through trauma. I mean, I still talk to them, and I'm like, are you guys all right? Like, it's been like 12 years, and it was traumatic. I had a little mastitis. It was awful. It was really, sounds like you had longer. So you had to get
so many times.
Sorry for your girls. I'm sorry. No, it's like no joke. I actually praise them all. I'm like, you guys are amazing. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you for helping all of us.
Right.
But it's interesting, because you were forced into that. And I think this saying no, what I found, I'm curious, the more that I do it from love, like when I'm in love and from love, it's gotten easier. But I will tell you, I don't have a strong bicep muscle yet. It is not a strong no bicep. I mean, it's like, I didn't have the most evolved muscles to begin with, but it's like just baby. It's not. So I think I'm curious, because I'm imagining you've probably developed yours. This is where I'm like, do you want to show us your bicep? No muscle? That's the weirdest question we could just imagine somewhere. Yeah.
Here's what I will say that has helped me a lot is I have developed over the years a series of policies. So then I don't actually have to use a muscle anymore. It's like the difference between, I don't know, like if you're taking your kids to the beach, like having a beach wagon where you can just pull everything versus like hauling all your beach equipment, right? And your toddler. And so my policies have created this beautiful scaffolding where I don't have to make the decision every time. I just have policies. And so it becomes very obvious, like what's a yes and what's a no. So then after all the yeses and nos that are based on policies shake out, there's only a few things I have to actually decide about. And that helps a lot. And I have personal policies and I have business policies. Now my team says no more for me based on our business policies. And then I say no more based on my personal policies. And so here's an example of a policy. I don't take appointments on Tuesdays. So if somebody wants me to do something on a Tuesday, it's a no.
Love it. I want to take that.
So-
I'm like, great. Any other days? Like, it's
So
brilliant.
Tuesdays. On Fridays, I take the days off so I can go to the beach with my kids in the summer.
Nice.
In the summer. Now that I live in Miami, I'm a little unclear how I'll do that. I'm going to need to come up with some new policies because I'm like, I could literally go to the beach every day. That was a main policy. So we'll see. But so that becomes a policy because I know, and here's how you can create your policies.
Okay, this is great.
I looked backwards. So first of all, there's so many different ways, but one of them is these different planning practices and seasonal review practices that my husband and I do. So we have a big annual planning and annual review practice that we do every year. And we recorded a couple of podcast episodes about it if you're wanting to know more on the Kate and Mike show. And then I do these seasonal review practices at the end of every quarter. And it really helps to look back and zoom out and be like, what were the highlights for you this season, this quarter? And what I realized is looking back at summers, I was like, God, the highlights were the days when I took the afternoon off and just were with the kids, just because I really wanted to be there with them.
Yeah.
And we were outside in nature with friends. And so I just reverse engineered and said, well, how can I build my life so that I have more of the, at the end of the day, there is never once that I'm like, oh, the best part of this year was that I got more subscribers on my email list. Or the best part of this year was that we increased our revenue 10%, or I launched this new program, maybe a new program, because that's sort of like my creative work. But anyway, I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so then it's just to create policies around the times when you reflect back on what's worked the best and what hasn't worked. And so I do this on a micro level every day with my daily energy tracker, which is one of the things that our community uses to really identify, okay, what went great today and what didn't? And what did you learn from what didn't go great? And then if I keep seeing the same thing come up again and again about what didn't go great, I make a new policy.
Oh, I love that.
So it really helps me.
That's awesome. That's so great. It's so real time. It's like, hold on. Well, I love the reverse engineering too. It's like, hold on. I love going to the beach. We love being outside. It's so true. Like, you don't think about, oh, I had more subscribers in this last quarter.
Who cares?
Yeah,
listen, if you're just starting out and you're feeding your family depends on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Celebrate
all day.
That.
Yes. But once, I will say, the data shows that once we are bringing in, as an individual, about $50,000 a year and whatever's equivalent to that, our level of happiness does not increase significantly relative to an increase in income.
Say that one last, pause for a minute. Once we bring in, I'm like, what did she say? I so want to know. That was awesome.
Above $50,000 a year. And I think I learned this from Sean Acor in the Happiness Advantage.
Yeah. Love him. Yeah.
But I could be misquoting it. So I'm just saying, but he's great.
Sounds good. He is so great.
So above $50,000 a year, our happiness does not increase significantly relative to equal income increases. So basically what I'm saying is the data does not show that we're happier according to making more money after about $50,000 a year. Now, $50,000 a year, could get you more or less in different regions, you can adjust for where you live. But we're basically saying, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once your food and shelter is handled, happiness comes from other places other than income.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Right. Once you've got the basics and you're okay, and I'm going to have a place to sleep and eat.
So we're not having a survival conversation right now.
Right. Oh, this is really, I love, it's funny. I got to tell you, I don't go on a lot of Instagram lives, but I keep bopping into yours. I love you and I love yours. It's where I'm like, oh yeah, we've known each other for a long time. I saw you talk about this. I heard you were talking about, oh my gosh, it was the energy tracker, but you're talking about women's cycles around tuning in. I've known this intuitively. I'd heard it, but never in this way about, men are often the 24 hours, women are 28 days, I believe, if I get that right.
Yes,
and I got to tell you, I was like, why has no one taught me
right?
this? Like, I'm okay, I was like, well, I've got water in my fight, my astrological sign. Like maybe that's why. I was like, no, no, no. This is it. This is how we are hormonally. This is how we are. This is how we're designed. It was, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it was one of
Yeah,
my
sure.
favorite. It's so funny. I always take these little notes with your things. And I really was like, Eureka, that is brilliant. We're like,
Mhm.
so even the boundaries, I just feel like there's a connection too.
Yes. So I have policies around the
I
different
love your,
phases
oh,
of my menstrual cycle. So because your policies are not going to be the same, like when I'm ovulating, I can say yes to everything
that's
because I
brilliant.
have so much more energy and I'm so outward and I'm so into being with people that I'm
Yeah.
like, great, book me for 10 interviews in a day. I don't really do that. I have a policy of only 2.
I was gonna say that's a lot of freaking,
No, because
yeah,
it's too
yeah,
much. But
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, if there were
yeah,
ever a time when I could get away with that, that would be when I'm ovulating.
yeah, yeah,
When
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
having my period, though, I can basically not schedule anything for days 1 and 2 because I'm like really inward in a
Yeah.
dreamy space. I'm blessed. I don't have like crazy
Yeah.
menstrual symptoms, but I'm just like not fully on the planet.
Oh, I get
Um, so, so
it.
my policy is like minimal appointments, if not nothing on those days, and zero expectations of myself in the outward world, other than the basics of like personal hygiene and keeping my children alive.
Mm,
So, because here's what's really important to know:
yeah.
hormonally speaking, women in their reproductive years, or people with ovaries in their reproductive years,
Yeah.
cycle on a 24 to 35 day schedule. And so
Right.
we have 4 specific energetic phases every month that
Mm,
are the same energy as the 4 seasons. So we have a personal winter when we're bleeding. We have a personal spring, which is the
mm,
5 to 6 days after we stop bleeding. That's our follicular phase. We have a personal summer, which is ovulation. So that's kind of like the day you ovulate plus the 3-ish days before and after. And then we have a personal autumn, which is our luteal phase, which is the 10 to 14 days before we start bleeding. And each one of these has an opportunity for us to step into a different part of ourselves. So when you talk about the Youest you, well, you actually will have sort of 4 versions of the Youest you. And
I
so the
love it.
Youest me, the
Yeah.
meest me,
It's me.
the
Yeah.
meest me
Yeah.
is really different when I'm having my period versus when I'm ovulating. And so I love to have, and I always let my husband know, like, hey, just so you know, like I'm starting to get kind of crunchy and prickly. I'm a few days out from my period, so I will not really want to be with you or talk to you. And please give me space. And then I let him know when I have my period. And I'm like, just so you know, I'm just really tired and I'm not fully here. So I'll
Oh,
just be over
wow.
here, not being fully here. And
Yeah.
so those are sort of boundaries,
Yeah.
and I'm like, can you make dinner? Can you do the kid pickups? Whatever, because it's a couple days a month.
Amazing. This is, mm, like, if you're listening, my hand is on my heart. I'm closing my eyes. I'm like taking this in because what you're saying, this is what I heard when I popped in. I don't know, it was a couple months ago. And I was like, this is truth. This is honoring. This is honoring the way we're designed. The whole way we're set up right now, frankly, does not at all.
No.
And it's interesting. The more I peel layers, listening to you and learning from what you're saying, it's like, oh my God, there's so much. I mean, obviously we're in a patriarchal based, world, but even this, I'm like, nothing ever is about this cycle. It is about the 24-hour cycle. Even
Yeah,
many of the, achieve your best goals in life, like it's 24
totally.
hours. This is brilliant. My whole body's like, thank you. And I'll share really openly. I don't want to say I'm embarrassed, but I did end up getting the Mirena. I feel like now we're having like a call in, like share your embarrassing stories, like share them here. You can feel comfortable, whoever's
Yeah,
listening, but the
totally.
IUD. And you know what I'm getting it out this summer. And what I've been so sad about is it stopped that process of knowing. I'm like, I used to know this. I'm like, actually, I have no idea right now because I don't have any indication other than there are times I'm very dreamy. I mean, I really relate to what you're saying. I just don't have the indication. So it's
Right.
interesting.
It's a little harder
That's
to track.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing for anybody who's listening, who's nursing or pregnant or postmenopause or has had a hysterectomy or is on the birth control pill or any other, hormonal form of birth control, is to know that also the moon does these exact same 4 phases every month. So everyone gets to play. So you can follow the moon, and the phase of the moon around the new moon is like winter, the waxing moon is like springtime, the full moon is like summer, and the waning moon is like autumn. So you don't you don't have to have a period, an unmedicated regular period, in order for this to apply to you. And in fact, many women who are wanting, I just got the greatest DM from somebody. She didn't have her period for years because of over exercise and yada yada
Yeah.
yada, and really wanted to get it back, so she could have kids, and it was like a source of pain, whatever. And she just sent me a DM, and she was like, I've been working with your practices, and I've been following the moon, and I've been paying attention, and on the new moon today I just got my first period in years. And it's so beautiful because, like, if you want to get back in touch with your cyclical nature,
Yeah.
and you have been having period problems, oftentimes tracking the moon, going out moon gazing, moon bathing, doing some simple new moon and full moon rituals can actually bring you back into cyclical alignment.
This is like, everyone listen up, like take this in. This is beautiful. It's interesting. Since I've been, it's one of these 5 years and I will never do it again. And I have gotten naturally, just organically into what you're saying with the moon. And I feel like it's my body was way of saying, like, we want to be back in the cycles. And it's really interesting because I mean, this sounds crazy, but there are times I look up and I'm like, I feel this feminine energy connecting with me. It's almost like we're dialoguing. I mean, she's like wise elder friend at this point. I'm like, where's my period? Bring her back. Bring her back. It's beautiful. It's
And it's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Wow. I just love I love that it's like designed for women's everything, cycles or way of being. It takes out the whole, like, you've got to be doing this to be worthy. And like, it just takes all that doing and pushing. And to me, it's really the divine feminine. It's the showing the surrender. I mean, without sounding weird, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like Sister Goddess Kate. Like, you really, what you're teaching is so needed. I feel like so many of us, I'll speak for myself, but I know because people write in, we're thirsty. We're like really, really malnourished in this area. And
when you really come back to it, like, we all came from the divine feminine. Like, the origin of life is the divine feminine. And we all are just craving knowing where we came from. And we're all just trying to get back there, trying to get back to that original connection. And, for better or for worse, we do it in all kinds of crazy ways. I think the porn industry is a sideways way trying to get there. Our culture's obsession with women's bodies is a sideways way trying to get there. But, it's like looking for God in all the wrong places.
I got chills. Yeah.
But then there are some right places or better places to look. And your body is one of them, and your cycles are one of them, and the moon is one of them.
Yeah. It's like we've been seeing so many, like, nice try. I don't think that's really the way to the divine feminine. Got it. That is sideways. But here, what you're saying, and I would just say, as you're listening, like, feel in your body what Kate just said, because I got to tell you, my whole body was like, yes. I'm just bringing it out. I have magic wand. It's stuff. This has never come in a podcast, but I felt her and I was like, yes, stake in the ground. I mean, we have props here, everyone. This is so fun. Bring it all. We have fun here. That is so fun. I was like, yes, I get you. I got this. This makes so much sense. So before we wrap, two quick questions. One is, I always like to ask, because it's so clear you're tapped in, tuned in, you're connected to this greater light source, your higher self. If you were to project out and you just look at, maybe I don't know if legacy might be the word, like, what do you hope to bring to this planet? God, I feel like we're like talking at the end of your life, but you've such a huge heart and purpose. I'm curious, like, the legacy you hope to leave here, what you're really here for.
Yeah, so I'm really here to get women into their bodies so that they can trust themselves, because I know that if women are
Mm,
reconnected with the power and access of, the power that's in their bodies,
yeah.
um, everything gets handled, because our bodies are wired to give birth and protect life.
Mm,
And so if we can get back into that place, everything in the world, I think, will get handled
mm,
if
mm.
women learn to trust themselves. And to me, the
Beautiful.
way to do that is embodiment.
Mm, that's gorgeous. Yeah, gorgeous. I'm with you on that. The last question, this might have been it. I call them heart flares, where your heart is like, hold on, I got one more thing to say. And I just like to ask, is there anything your heart is like, I want to bring this in, or I want to say this, or just whatever she would like to, I want to honor your heart flare. If there's anything else that I didn't ask you or that you feel called to share.
I would say that, you listening are the embodiment of the divine. None of us know why we're here. None of
Mm.
us know what happens when we die. I know religions say they do, but they don't. And
Not
so,
really. No one really.
really,
Yeah.
I think near-death experiences, people who've had a near-death
Yeah.
experience, those experiences tend to line up. So I think they have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Um, but
NDEs. Next one.
yeah, next one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because we are really an embodied expression of the divine, that's all that matters. And the amount of things we get done in a day has nothing to do with our inherent worth or value. Really. And so that's my final thing. Your value is not determined by the number of things you get done in a day.
That's amen. Sister Goddess Kate, I feel like you are just, oh my gosh, it is so needed. I just keep seeing people that are malnourished needing to hear this. Like, this is nourishment, this is truth. I just so honor you and the work you're doing. And I almost, the word work doesn't even seem right. It's like, even that word, it's like the creative collective, like raising of consciousness, raising of, frankly, awareness to embody who we came here to be. I mean, I'm on the train with you. I'm cheering you. I mean, I'm just like, yup. And I'm doing the no challenge. Like, I'm in. I
Awesome.
want to be the first person on there. Like, and anyone listening, you can join. We'll have all the information, because I'm like, I'm a big yes to the no.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Oh yeah. I so honor you. Thank you for who you are. You're just such a beautiful light, such a beautiful being. And, even I can tell you, in those that are getting to know you today, I felt this, that translates it from afar. Your heart, your intention, your light really does. And I think that's part of what the embodiment piece is too, is like being able to do that no matter where we are, and to connect at that level. So thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Julie. Thank you so much.